Hello, and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental enthusiasts, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, Laura and I discuss managing social media. We talk to Ryan Hathaway about the Department of Interior, Reinventing Yourself, and workplace culture. And finally, pigs are actually very clean animals. Despite their reputation, they will not relieve themselves where they sleep. That kind of seems like a low bar for being clean, but all right. They also cannot sweat, so they cover themselves with mud to cool down. It also keeps them from getting sunburned, so double bonus. And that's why people think they're dirty, when in fact, they're just being practical. How about that?
They're also very smart.
And cute. Let's not forget.
Noted.
Hit that music.
Don't forget to check out NAEP's leadership blog, which offers insights on workplace culture, climate change, progressive leadership, and other topics in the environmental space. Check it out at naep.org. Looking for a great sponsor opportunity? 60% of listeners have bought something from a podcast ad, and we are up to over 25,000 downloads with over 400 per episode, which is pretty exciting. If you'd like to sponsor the show, please head on over to environmentalprofessionalsradio.com and check out the sponsor form for details. We certainly appreciate you immensely, and you are the people who keep the show going. Well, let's get to our segment.
Social media is kind of funny because you meet me, you hear me, you talk to me. I enjoy being around people. I like connecting. I love doing all those things. So I don't know. I always have a challenge like with social media, knowing that it's very, very important. And I need to be doing a lot better about it in general. And
be doing better.
I mean, just engaging with people. I mean, it's something that, it's also like a job in a way. You have to treat it with a lot of respect. You can't just be like, oh, I'll just post something here and then leave. And I'll do that once every 3 years. You're not going to be helping yourself. You're not going to be helping, your team, anything. And of course, I'm being dramatic in a way, but well, that is me. I am dramatic.
You are dramatic, that's for sure.
Yeah. I would love to say I'm not, but that's not true. I love it.
I'm really impressed with some of our past guests and how well they do with social media, like Shell Ginteman and Sunny and
Stop Rain.
Yeah, they're just like constantly posting, but not only just posting. Matt Sagel, they're posting helpful, valuable things, and they're engaging with people, and they're doing all the right. It also looks like they're doing the right things, like. Yeah. Are you guys doing this? When are you working? Or is this just part of work? And it's, this is the new way of working, and engaging the community is part of that. Or do they have helpers? It's like, it's hard to, you can look at other people and be like, man, I suck at this. But then you don't know if they've got 4 people who are helping them do it,
Yeah, but that's true of a lot of things. I love that you said that. Actually, we do that, and I've heard musicians say that. I've heard comedians say that. That band is better than mine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then you have a target. You have a goal. You know how to get better. You need to get better. And it's attainable. I mean, it absolutely is. I think even, and again, there's no age limit on that either, right? A lot of our guests are in their 40s and late 30s. But you can be great at social media at any age. It's not about that. It's much more about the commitment to it, treating it like a job. I think that's the first thing, even in comedy, that people learn is jokes. Writing a joke is, if you actually want to be a stand-up comedian, it is a job, period. Yeah. Right? You want to be a musician, it's a job. That's what you do. You have to put, your 40 hours a week in, et cetera, to really be good at it. You have to treat it that way. I'm not saying social media, you need to be doubling your time on it, but you have to treat it with respect. You have to treat it with a lot of guidance. And I don't know. It's hard for me. It's not the first thing that comes to my mind. I don't think about it on a day-to-day basis. I want to, but especially this time of year, I feel so overwhelmed with all of my work stuff. That I just, I'm like, social media, what? But it's very important. It's a really important tool. I think that in the workplace, it's less important, I think, but for marketing purposes and getting your name out there, getting brand recognition, that kind of stuff, it's very, very, it's vital almost these days. We work with the federal government. It's a little different. Our version of social media and engagement is going to, conferences and stuff like that. But yeah, people need to know who you are. They're not going to know if you're hiding.
True. And I think the ones that I see doing a lot are really, they're establishing themselves as experts, right? So a lot of it is not even so much for marketing and branding, but it's just to say like, hey, I'm the person who knows about this stuff.
But you know what? That's another good point, though. I would say that is marketing. I would say that's absolutely marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're establishing yourself as an expert. I know this. You guys should too. You know? And then people come back and be like, oh, yeah, that's the guy that knows the thing.
Yeah.
You know? Or that's the role model person, you know?
Exactly.
So I don't know. But I want to be better at it, though. So tell me, Laura, how do I get better?
I mean, seriously, I think you gotta have a plan. You know, what do you want to do? Like anything else, like, do you want to do, what kind of posts do you want? What kind of content do you want? What platforms are going to be the ones you stick to? I think part of the hard part is trying to do all of them. I don't think that's realistic.
Right.
And at the same time, once you make it easier for yourself, that's when you can get a helper and they know what your plan is.
Yeah.
Do some of that for you. I'm no marketing expert, but I think that just from what I've seen, the consistency is part of it too.
Yeah. Like say doing a podcast once a week, for example.
Right.
Maybe that's a good idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does. It makes a difference every week versus whenever you get to it, or,
right.
You know, that all just makes it harder. I know even for myself, if you're doing something routinely, I don't know if you know, my photography Instagram page had 7,000 followers on it at one point that I had gotten on my own. Like legitimately, they weren't fake followers or anything. But algorithms have changed and it's much harder. So it gradually goes down and down and down now. But it was all engagement. It was just about putting something out for people to engage with and then actually talking to them and building. Like I have people still today, I have a hashtag and there's almost 35,000 photos in my community hashtag. And all of those people, they have made friends with each other. They still message me. I've had invites all over the world to go and meet people through my photography page. It was all just engagement. And I can't tell you how many sites I'll make a comment on and I don't even get a like on my comment or reply. And I'm like, well, that's the last time I'm engaging with you. So I think that's a big part of it. And that's a hard part too. You can post all day long, but if you're not engaging with your followers, then you're going to limit your capacity.
That makes sense. So yeah, and it's funny. It's I think there's even for me sometimes I'm like, well, who would want to hear this? And that's a silly like, you know, defeatist kind of mindset too. Like it just doesn't matter. You know, you're putting stuff out there that's important to you. That's why you're doing it. And if other people appreciate it, great. But yeah, it's got to be a foundational thing too. Like this is what I want to talk about.
Well, yeah. If you're just talking because you think it's what people want to hear, it's not going to be something you can do long.
It's not sustainable. Is that because you can only will yourself so much. I love that. Willpower is great and perfect and wonderful, but it runs out. Everybody's done.
Yep.
Why everybody joins a gym and then leaves 3 months later. That's
guilty.
Yeah. That's willpower. You did willpower, but you didn't do the other part, the harder part.
Yeah.
Committing.
Yeah. Let's talk about that another time. What is that hard part that I'm not doing? Because I'm not.
All right, cool. Let's get to our interview. Hello, and welcome back to EPR. Today we have Ryan Hathaway, the Environmental Justice Coordinator for the Office of the Secretary in the U.S. Department of the Interior and member of NAEP on the show. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Nic Laura. That's really exciting. I've been listening to your podcast for the past long time.
So that's nice. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. And we're really excited to have you here. You got a really fresh perspective and we're looking forward to getting into it. But, you know, so you work for the Department of the Interior and, you know, we talk about environmental career seekers thinking about government jobs. You know, Army Corps and EPA come up pretty regularly. But what is the Department of Interior? What do they do? What's their mission?
So the easiest way to think about it is think about all of your big government agencies that you normally like see in movies like state and DOD. And then we do everything else like that the government does. So we've often been called the Department of Everything Else, but really it's a massive mission And it's really a cool place to work. So just a short plug, even though I know I'm, representing myself, but we do all of the national parks, all of the public lands. 1 out of every 5 acres in the United States is managed by the Department of Interior. So it's a big portfolio. Conservation, we do all the offshore renewable energy and wind, all the onshore renewable energy and wind on public lands. We do trails and community partnerships. And we also have like some really interesting nuanced programs like our program of insular affairs. So we help fund and manage projects in all of Puerto Rico and Guam and American Samoa and all of our insular communities. We have a huge tribal responsibility with Bureau of Indian Affairs and Indian Education. So there's really a lot of great stuff that DOI does. And I can't imagine how hard it is for any Secretary of the Interior to like just come in on day one and see, and you're like, wait, we do that too. And one of the things that I do recently with environmental justice is kind of look at our portfolio of EJ and surprised to learn that we also manage the fund that gives out money to assist with the Bikini Atoll, where the U.S. tested nuclear weapons in the 50s. So that is also Department of Interior. So it's a really diverse portfolio, but there's a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of jobs that are outdoors. I used to have one myself before working for too long.
Right. So is that it? Is that all you guys do?
It's that's off the top of my head, but I will say doi.gov. Feel free to go there and learn all of the things I forgot about.
So how did you get there? How did you start working for them?
So I've answered this question before. And I like to say it started off when my parents met, because my parents, believe it or not, met in the basketball court in the basement of the building that I work in right now at the Udall Interior building. Neither of them ever worked for Interior, but I felt like some destiny to work here. It honestly started pretty close to after college for me. I was working for a nonprofit on the Hill as a wildlife conservationist. I went to school for wildlife biology. And so it was something that I was like, if I want to go into the federal service, everyone has been telling me you need to start young. And I'm already getting and feeling old at the age. I think I was 23 at the time, 24. And so I started applying for federal jobs. And, one of the things that is really hard is figuring out what you're doing on USA Jobs. It's gotten better, but it's a hard process. And so I applied for a bunch. I thought I was interviewing for a job as a biologist. And by the time I had accepted a position, I found out I was actually a management assistant. So I was like getting all of their mail and doing things, but I was at the Wildlife Refuge Center. I was like, all right, well, this is a place I want to work. I want to work in Fish and Wildlife Service. Right. So I just went in every day for a year and did that job, tried to get it done in like the first 3 hours, and then run around the halls and be like, who needs help with like science? Like, can I help with things? But I'll say that was my start, was working an administrative job. And it's been one of the most important experiences in my career, because it really makes me appreciate every aspect of what we do, including all the people that don't do the like biology and the park management, but keep our programs afloat and keep us paid. It's important work.
It genuinely is. And it's a really great perspective. It kind of keeps you humble all the way through, because you remember that experience. It doesn't go away, for sure.
And I remember how bad I was at it too, right? So like, I really appreciate all of the wonderful administrative people we have at Interior, because I'm like, man, I forgot about that part of the job. I'm not sure I ever did that part of the job.
Was I supposed to do that part of the job? Yeah. Yes, you were.
Yeah, probably.
Well, so tell us a little bit about what you work on now. What are your current projects for DOI?
We have a lot of things in the work right now. So right now I am privileged. I listened to your podcast about the got to versus have to. And I thought that I have that conversation with myself every day. I get to be the environmental justice coordinator for Department of Interior. And it's as broad a mission as DOI's mission, really, because I think the one thing we have consistently done a lot of great EJ work, we haven't consistently told that story. And I think there's a lot more attention on it right now. And so really, a lot of what I am doing day to day is trying to encourage people around Interior to think just a little bit more about environmental justice, about how you connect with communities. And Some of that is the historical pathway of NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, and like, how do you do stakeholder engagement? But then I think a lot of it is the like going beyond NEPA and building the relationships that you can then lean on when you do need to engage communities. And that part's harder in the government because it doesn't pay off immediately. At least there's no great story that comes out of it. There's no discernible project. You're really engaging the community near where you do work so that you have that relationship in the future. So I'll say probably one of the 25% of my job right now is going around and talking to different offices and places in Interior and just telling them like, that's good. That's okay, right? If you're doing it with no other intent than just getting a relationship with that community, because it's something government hasn't done well. The other work that I'm working on, Justice 40. So the Justice 40 initiative came out about a year and a half ago in Executive Order 14008. It basically turned a lot of programs on their head of how are we reporting and tracking and thinking about the mission of our program. It came out with 7 sectors: climate change, clean energy, affordable transportation, affordable and sustainable housing, workforce development, legacy pollution, and water and waste infrastructure. And I'm impressed that I've obviously done this way too much because I remember those without cheating.
I was impressed.
Yeah. I did towards the end. I was like, oh my gosh, don't forget the last one. So it said any investment you make in those categories, we are asking you to start working so that 40% of the benefits of those investments go to disadvantaged communities. And that is a challenge on so many fronts because one, we're so used to just doing what the program mission is and just sticking within like, this is always how we've done it. This is always how we've gone out. And if you couple that with a lot of the work that we have fantastic people in Interior who work on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and the DEIA team that I sit on or am happy to have been invited to be a part of, a lot of their work about getting in and being inclusive of communities overlaps with Justice 40 in our EJ work. So Justice 40 is billions of dollars. We have over 60 programs, and it is really trying to help each one of those individual programs think about how do we change how we look at our work, the benefit of our work, how it benefits communities, and then go and talk to the communities and say, are we right? Like, is this really what the benefit of that project was? And so it covers, Interior having our broad mission, we have programs in literally every one of those sectors and several of them. And so a lot of my work is herding cats in some way, but they're all cats that like, you want them to be their individual cats. Like they're great programs. So you don't want to like force them to all fit in the same mold, but you want them to be successful.
Right. So how do you measure success then? Because it's really challenging. There's a lot of really big things that you have to do. Like you said, you're herding a lot of different cats. It's not one, it's like hundreds. And so how do you measure success then? Is it on that individual basis or even as a whole?
I think you have to do both. I think it's very much the yes and approach. Right. So you have to help programs, and some of them have never thought about this. And some of them, Justice 40 didn't give sideboards that said, well, only your programs that aren't very legislatively restricted and have a way that they have to give out grants. It said all of them. We want the baseline. And so some of them are just freaked out because they're like, well, we couldn't change how we do this. And it's like, that's okay. Right now, we're just establishing a baseline. So I think first off, like you have to define success for each program and let them know that like, hey, just because your baseline is something that you don't feel like you have control over, that's okay. Even establishing it for transparency's sake is a very big win for the government. And then looking collectively and say, hey, if we're trying to move this ship, this is not a nimble rowboat where you can just kind of like pivot. We're moving an aircraft carrier. And so you've got to get like everyone into the right place. You've got to get all the ships, all the planes back in. You've got to make sure your fleet is with. So it's trying to encourage people to go slow to go fast and really develop those community relationships with these programs if they don't have them, or if they have them, to talk to them and say, well, what do you think success for this program would look And then there's a lot of work we're working on with the White House. They have a new climate and economic justice screening tool that it's still, I mean, I think we expect it to be never finalized, but more finalized in the near future. And so a lot of it is like we do a little bit and then you check in with the rest of the federal government and say, well, what have you all been doing? Where can we steal DOE or EPA? Where can we steal what you're doing and share what we're doing? And so it's try not to scare people really right now and say like, this is all good and you don't have to do it tomorrow. We just have to start working on it and all move there together.
Yeah. You got to start thinking about it now.
But on a more serious note, I did want to see if you would be interested in talking about, you had a traumatic experience in your life that caused you to reinvent yourself. Is that something you feel comfortable talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a long time ago. And I actually, I think I'm very thankful because for a number of reasons it led me to meet my wife, who has helped me in more ways than I can describe. But when I was in between high school and college, I was overseas and supporting a friend who was on a roller hockey championship team. And it was, I had done school all my senior summer, so I had no real summer break. And so I was like, let me take these 2 weeks and go have fun. And we didn't really know the area of England that we were in very well. And we didn't know that you couldn't wear jeans to nightclubs or like nice bars where we were. And so I guess we ended up going to like a place to dance that wasn't in a great area and didn't, know it well at the time, and ended up getting assaulted by a large group of people. And I got hit in the head with a cement block attached to a traffic cone and lost vision in my right eye and had skull fractures and had a bunch of like difficult medical problems that I just probably ignored in a not so smart way for 5 years after returning. Wow. But yeah, so I immediately realized that like my future goals of playing soccer and being a goalkeeper were gone. And then I also learned as I was going through my first semester that I was having trouble reading because my dominant eye was my right eye. And so anytime I started to like read and I was having like difficulty with speech. So I got home and I spent 2 weeks with my parents in my house and was like, I'm going crazy. Like, this is too much. So I was like, let me just go to school and see how well I can do. That was also a mistake. But it was one I enjoyed very much. I couldn't keep up with mechanical engineering. It was a lot of computer coding. And I remember getting to the end of the week and looking at my chapters to read in my computer coding. I was like, I have a migraine, my head's swelling, like I can't keep up with this. And so I was like, I've got to switch to something that I can do without having to read the textbooks. And I don't know thermodynamics off the top of my head, but I really love biology and natural sciences. And so maybe there's something that I can take where I can still take the 101 courses and like just kind of like fake it till you make it till I like get some of my ability to read back. And so that's, I jumped around a little bit and landed with wildlife conservation. And I also, if he is still at University of Delaware, my advisor, Chris Williams, just one of the most amazing people I've ever spent time with. He was super welcoming and helpful and patient because I was a hot mess of a college student in almost every way. But it let me get to where I am now and working for environmental policy. And I think about it and I'm like, honestly, if I look at what I would have done, the types of jobs that were more likely to happen would have been in defense manufacturing and things that I wouldn't have really wanted to be a part of. The idea of like developing the one cool robot, it's like there's only 2 people probably that get to do that. And the rest of the mechanical engineering is like, how do I injection mold the chapstick lid so it closes tighter? So like I'm pretty happy that
important stuff.
It was. And I don't make that up because I remember my high school tour of a factory in Vermont. And this guy, he's like, I'm a mechanical engineer and I designed the new lid for chapstick. And you're like, oh, did they have a new lid? And he's like, well, yeah, I was like a 1.5 year long project. And I still remember that face that he made after he said that, where I was like, maybe I don't want to do this.
That's wild.
Shout out to chapstick container makers
Laura
everywhere, though.
Chapstick.
Hey, I put them in the washing machine all the time. If they have a solid lid on there, that's a bonus.
This kid I saw, he was 22 years old, and that was his first job out of college. And yeah, those lids are fantastic. You can get them off easy, and they stay on through the wash. He did his job better than I could have. So I think it all worked out for the best.
Yeah, it's all good. Looking back, now you've landed in a new place and you can see, how it's shaped up and turned out. What's that process of reinventing yourself like? And is there any specific advice you could give to somebody else who may be going through something, whether it's triggered by a traumatic event or they're just feeling like, I need to erase what I've been doing and start over?
Yeah. I guess the first advice, you see it all the time on things, TV shows, et cetera, but you got to just start, right? And it's not as hard as the hardest part is deciding to do it. And then I think if you are doing the thing that you want to do, it still feels hard, right? Like my job's still hard every day, but I do like what I am doing. And I imagine how much harder it would be if I had to work this hard for something I didn't like doing. So spend some time, figure out what you like. And if you're doing something and you don't like it, don't be afraid to say, I think I need to start doing something else. And that's something I say a lot we have a lot of youth, and I've been really trying to bring like kids into the federal government space that are just graduating, because I think we are hemorrhaging talent at a pretty historic rate to flexible workplaces and other things. And I think bringing in that talent in part is like giving people a chance to kind of experiment, trial and error. Like, maybe I do this, maybe I don't like that project, maybe I do this. Yeah. But just start and be patient with yourself and recognize that most people's there's probably a few narcissists where this doesn't apply, but like your image of yourself is probably the lowest existing image that's out there. And so like, if you feel like you're not good at something, just know that that's not what everyone else is thinking. And there's plenty of people at the top of every field who have absolutely no clue what they're doing, and they are still faking it. And they're very much successful. So just know that if you don't feel like you're on it or it's going to take a lot of work, it's okay to do it incrementally and just try to be happy. Like, there's too much going on in this world these days for people to do stuff they don't like doing. And there's enough people, like I have it on the back of my personal business card, which I printed a bunch from some free website, but like, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. I think just live by that a little bit, and it really will get you a lot further, even if it's not more money or a better job. Like, you'll at least be happy at what you're doing.
Yeah. And, it's really hard when you're young, because we always think, oh, well, this is what I said I would do. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I have to do it. And yes, that's true to a degree, right? But sometimes all people need is permission to try something, permission to be themselves. And it's great that you get to do that. So I'm giving you a little kudos here. I have to do it. So thank you.
It is fun to be able to do that. Yeah. So,
and, we're talking, about workplace, and you're working, rebuilding and refreshing workplace cultures, bringing those new people in, like you say. And I think just talking with you and I have very similar sensibilities with this stuff. We can't take everything seriously, even when it's serious. And there's a good reason for that. But it's a really big challenge. So why is it so hard, and why should we be taking even serious things less seriously?
Well, so that is a huge challenge, I think. And, I think it's twice-fold in the federal government, because there are good reasons why we want to do everything ethically and have zero errors. We're entrusted with money from everyone in the country, and that includes the poorest people in the country who are paying taxes. And so you want to get it right. And it builds into these models of like zero risk, zero acceptable risk. And like, you're always going to have risk. And so I think it's like a misnomer that we have to take everything seriously because we have to have zero risk, zero outward errors so that we are safe in our program execution. And it makes everyone very serious, but it doesn't make everyone productive.
Yeah. And you still make mistakes.
You still make mistakes. You're still going to have risk. You're still going to have litigation. But I think it is something that, as a millennial, if I can use that not 4-letter word to describe myself, it's something in workplace culture that is shifting too. there are some things that we do at Interior that I don't do, but that are very serious. They are life or death situations, wildland fire management. When I am talking about an environmental impact statement, there are serious aspects to it, right? But if we have every single meeting be a very constricted conversation, you're never going to really have much change management in your workforce. And I also think it means that our workplace is less inviting to the new talent of this day and age. And so I see our workforce, we're shedding talent. I've seen it since I've been in the federal government, but especially since COVID and maybe the few years prior to COVID, a lot of really talented people have left to go be consultants or contractors because they can get paid more. They can have a little more flexibility. And I think we're starting to see that shift. I think there's a little bit this idea of, well, let's just let it be a remote job and that will make them happy. And I think we're still kind of missing the point because people don't care. I mean, they do care if a job is remote or virtual, but it's more so that they don't want you to arbitrarily put restrictions on how they do their job that are based on nothing except your old understanding of how to manage people, right? So it's not that they care that it's a virtual job. They care that, are you making me come into the office for no reason? Right. If there's a reason, I don't mind coming into the office. If you have a good justification. So it's not like every place has to be Google and have a cafeteria and a water slide.
Right.
But just, don't be jerks about it and try to, if you can have flexibility, you're going to get more talented people if you lean on that.
Yeah. And it's very well said. And I think it's a really important point. And even when we say, be less serious, doesn't mean don't care, doesn't mean don't be serious or take something seriously. But, it's almost like just giving that little bit of levity is a trust. It's a thing. It's almost like you're giving them trust, right? I trust that we have a relationship where we can still, get to know each other as people, as who we are.
I really like that. Yeah. I'll say I make a point when I run meetings to try to build in a moment of levity at the front. I've even called it a moment of levity back when I was a supervisor. And I was like, someone new to the meeting, bring whatever GIF or meme you saw online that's work appropriate and made you chuckle, and share it with people, and let's laugh and then start off that way, because we're taking ourselves way too seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
I think another important piece of why it's good to not always take yourself so seriously at work is from a team building and teamwork standpoint. There is a high amount of pressure on us to perform in some of the areas that are really critical now in environmental policy. We're dealing with really, really heavy subjects: climate change, environmental justice, drought, water quality, and all of the things that kind of cascade from those large pictures, those large environmental issues. And if everything is done so seriously, I think it doesn't give freedom for folks to play. And there's a lot of intellectual aspects and a lot of kind of thought requirements of folks that do this work. And so if you're actually not serious, I think you invite a sense of play and of curiosity amongst staff. And that really does sometimes change your perspective in the issues that you're working from. It also teaches a few important things. One, I think when you're goofing around with your colleagues, you do gain a sense of trust, because I think you have a different footing that you get on with them, and allows you to build a little bit more three-dimensional of a relationship with the folks you're working with. Another thing it does is it shows that it's okay to make mistakes, and that it's okay to come up or throw out ideas that aren't great ideas, that aren't fully formed. Especially in brainstorming meetings or certain meetings, it allows for more ideas to flow. And look, we haven't solved all these issues. We haven't solved them from a policy standpoint or other standpoint. And so I think there is certainly a lot of work that we have left that we have to conceptualize, and we have to come up with new approaches. And so if everyone is so afraid of the seriousness of every moment, I don't think we are accessing their best, most creative energies. And it's a shame, because then we're not setting ourselves up for success in the long run. So the idea of not being serious at work is to invite play. And I think that allows people to be more comfortable, to throw out ideas that they're not 100% confident in, to not be afraid of making mistakes, especially when you're trying to solve a new issue or conduct some sort of change management in your approach. It builds camaraderie, it builds teams together. And I think it also reduces the impact on the people who are doing that work. If you're working 40 hours a week, that's a lot of time. If you're dumping cortisol into your system because you're stressed and serious that entire time, you're not going to be at your healthiest mentally, emotionally, or just physically. Taking yourself seriously all the time can have physical consequences. So I think it's an approach that's important for leaders everywhere, to find times to let folks not be so serious and enjoy each other's company. And it actually moves the work forward, especially when you're in the policy space and in the environmental space. And it just, if you're not going to enjoy the people, you're working with these people 40 hours a week. That's more than I see my wife sometimes. Yeah. If I can't enjoy myself with you, then, what's the point?
That's no fun. I mean, it's stressful. It's difficult.
It is.
I get that. And we talked about how, you're a LinkedIn person, I'm a LinkedIn person, and we also talked about how a lot of people on LinkedIn just try to look so professional and they lose a lot of their personality. I'm not one for using it like a Facebook or something like that, but I still try to encourage people who are looking for jobs. I got your resume. Show me on your LinkedIn who you are, right? Yeah. And you do that so well. And I've been super excited because your banner is you with a picture of a little pig. And I'm like, I can see something about who you are. I love it. And that just means you look fun and interesting. So
right. Yeah.
Aside from that, yeah, you're also not afraid, just communicating with you through there. Your personality also shines through, which I think is really great. So anyway, thank you for being you. And I'm excited to finally be having this conversation. But I'm also super excited to talk to you about your field work, because I know you've done a lot of it and you have some pretty good stories. So now it's time for field notes. And I know that you listen to the show, so you know what that's all about. So go ahead and give us some good stories.
Yeah. Well, so first, to make sure that I give the cameo as appropriate, and I will include another pig that didn't make that picture because of timeline. But that is Mia Hamm, who is named after my favorite soccer player growing up, and her compatriot. I'm watching them out my window, enjoy eating some of the grass I have yet to mow. Peter Porker is out there. And it's as much a strategy of showing my personality as it is trying not to be the only living thing in a picture and have all the attention on myself. So there was some attempt to avoid attention, even though it's social media. So, right, it's a hollow and hypocritical effort there. All right. So field notes. I started off in that administrative job, and very quickly within a year was I don't think this is what I am good at or what I want to do. And had an opportunity to move out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and work for the Bureau of Land Management. And what was, I didn't know it at the time, but a really unique office. So the Eastern States of Bureau of Land Management, which has some fantastic people and just a crazy complicated mission, because most of where BLM is out west, and most of it is they own the land that they're managing. And out east, most of it is subsurface and minerals. And so the job I had found myself in was basically the 4 M's, from Minnesota down to Missouri, over to Maine, and down to Maryland. Anywhere where there was some federal interest in oil and gas, I got to go and do environmental inspections. A lot of the times that was like taking a federal work rig and driving in people's driveways that were rural and long and did not expect to see someone from the federal government. So I've had a lot of interesting field experience. I think one of the more interesting ones is we had some wells that were in the area of the Hatfield and McCoy in West Virginia. And I still remember I had been down there and was meeting with the company. And so we were going around and I was looking at the wells and they were showing me where they are, because a lot of them we didn't have lat longs. These were really old deeds. So when you'd look it up, the location on the paperwork we had was like, it was 100 yards from the oak tree in Merle's, front field. And you're like, oh, like that's not helpful to find 250 years later. Yeah. So I'm out there with a company, and we had gone and done like 3 or 4 wells that morning. And I had, helped them figure out how to avoid spilling oil and do some various maintenance that they needed with the state DEP. And we pulled up to this road and they pulled over and they're like, the wells are up there. I remember like being in my work rig and being like, this does feel weird, but I'm just going to assume that they don't, they're like, just go, it's a hard road. We'll get. And so as I'm driving, I remember seeing like these shacks with like families. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't know, like a lot of blinds were getting shut and like doors were shutting. And like, I'm like, this feels very much like a horror movie a little bit. Right. And so I go and there's a sign for the well. And so I park my car and I'm like, okay. I go out, take some pictures of the well. This one was actually in fairly good shape, which was a rarity. And I hear a gunshot and see the tree like right behind my head, maybe 4 feet up, just kind of like splinter. And I was like, I just like immediately hit the ground. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what do I do? I was like, well, I stupidly left my cell phone in the car. I have my digital camera, which is, do I take a selfie and be like, bye world? It was fun. And then like another one hits the tree higher up and I'm starting to think like, okay, I feel like this is them just telling me to get out. So I just get up, run to my rig, and there is a dead possum that has been gutted with, and then the innards of the possum spell out "get out fed" on the side of my work truck. And there's a bunch of empty shotgun shells kind of left sprinkled over the hood. So I just get in it, back my rig up as fast as I can down the driveway and get back. And I get all the oil and gas guys are just dying laughing when I get back there. And they're like, yeah, they don't take too like, they don't love people coming on their property. This family doesn't actually come into town. They've been there for, 100-something years, and they're all homesteaders. And you're like, oh, all of that would have been great information prior to going in there when they're like, yeah, let's get you to a car wash and buy you some, like get you some lunch and stuff.
You have some like backwoods hazing.
Yeah, very much so. And it was the only time I've had a warning shot fired at me, but I've had weapons pulled on me in that job a few times and got out of them. I remember a guy pulled a gun on me and his dog was there, and my wife was in veterinary school at the time. And so I just was like, oh, I love your dog. And like, your broccoli is like growing really well, and just like tried to deflect. And eventually he was like, oh yeah, the broccoli trick is coffee grounds. A trick I still, use to this day. So that guy in rural Michigan, thank you for that. And for not shooting me.
Right.
All right. So sweet talk your way out of it. I like it. So what else do you got? What other advice do you have for getting out of these sticky situations that you've learned firsthand?
I think I realized early on in life, I was fortunate to get a lot of traumatic brain injuries when I was younger. I say fortunate because I guess you gotta, be happy about your lot in life, but everyone's coming to it with the best they can at the time that they're there. And some people are just in a place where they can't either be good or can't be themselves or are nervous. And so I try to be be authentic to yourself. And then also just understand that as hypocritical as other people seem, you also probably seem and are just as hypocritical, because it's human nature. So look for common ground with people. And, in that case, I saw the guy had a dog and had really nice broccoli. I mean, I didn't stick around to form bonds with the folks that left a dead possum on my car. So, if I could have that one back, I very much
read the room.
Yeah, you got to read the room. I relate though. There's this scene. I don't know if can I mention TV shows? Is that there's a scene in The Office where Pam Beesly is like, I feel like everyone should like me and I just want people to like me. And I feel like even if they're terrible, if they just got to know me, they'd like me. And so I feel like having a little bit of that attitude when you're out there and just be like, look, this person just doesn't know me. Let's talk to them about things that I notice about them that I like and see if we can de-escalate a little bit.
That's great. There's one other thing I need to ask you along these lines, because this is always Nic's favorite, is learning about other people's animal encounters.
Yeah.
So we need to know your best animal encounters so that Nic can wallow in it a little bit.
Yeah. Make me jealous. Here we go. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I have a picture of this somewhere. It actually used to be my LinkedIn picture early on. When I was an intern, my first job out of college in DC, we had done a grant for the Maine Black Bear Research Group. And I think my boss at the time, Matt Eckert, I don't know where he is, but he was one of the best bosses you could ask for. Really great. And he was like, you should go up and help them with their winter den surveys. That would be a really cool experience. They'd really like to show off a little bit. And plus, it's a good opportunity. You're an intern, you need to experience. So we went up, and basically in Maine, we were in the lower portion. So it was -20 at the time. We're snowmobiling into these super remote areas. And never forget, the first time seeing it, they literally you throw a blanket over the bear den, and then someone crawls in there with a plunger pole and tries to jab the bear and back out before it wakes up. And so they were like, okay, do you want to try this? And I'm like, okay. And so they grab your heels and you shuffle in, and they there's another guy, and they had a little infrared light right there, just get them in the muscle. And so you use the plunger pole and do it, and they pull you out. And so we did this one. It was a female black bear. She had 5 cubs that were, just not recently born, but were new cubs. And so when she is out, you keep them in your jacket to keep them warm. And so I was the new guy, and they're like, you should take all of them. So I had 5 cubs in my jacket, just stuffed around me, and they had just weighed her, and we were doing salmon. So they're like, let's get a photo op. So they put a bandana over her eyes, so just to try not to wake her up, and had her in my lap. And so I pull out one of her cubs and hold it up and have her. And I just remember feeling some movement and looking down and just seeing the bear just nudge off the bandana and look up at me as I'm holding her cub. And I just remember being like, oh, I'm going to die. I remember the feeling of I'm going to be eaten alive. And then I look up, and 2 of the people who were with them that were newer were running.
Gosh,
running. And it turns out they were going to make sure they could get more ketamine because they didn't know if they had a syringe there. But my immediate response is oh my God, I'm really going to be eaten alive by this bear. And thankfully the experienced biologist comes, puts the handkerchief, holds her down, gives her a shot of ketamine. But I remember I'm holding all of her, I am the target, right? I have her entire future in my jacket with me. This bear is going to devour me. So that was probably my most interesting animal encounter in the field. And I feel my heart racing thinking about it. It was 15 years ago, and it still scares me to this day.
Yeah, no, yeah. I can feel that. That's a good one. Oh my
gosh, but it must have felt so good to have little bear cubs in your hands.
They were incredibly strong, stronger grip than mine. And so there were points in times where they're like, well, let's put them back in the den. And it's it's on their schedule. So you're sitting there until they let go of you. And they're like, okay, now you go back in with mom. You sit there for 20 minutes because they when they grab onto you, you're like, yeah, you ain't getting them off.
Wow.
That's cool. Oh. So how did you meet your wife again? I read it.
Yeah. So
my mouth's open.
Me and my wife met on study abroad in Antarctica. It was, and the more accurate and less cool statement is that we met in JFK Airport. And probably would have met at University of Delaware had her husband been someone that attended the pre-meetings like a good student. But thankfully, like, I still remember our first walk. We were actually in Tierra del Fuego, and what drew us to each other, I think still to this day, is we were looking at 1,000 people standing in line to take the chairlift down and looking at a very reasonable hill that you could walk down that was, like 300 yards. And we're like, man, I feel like it's going to be way quicker to just walk downhill. And so we did. We beat the whole class there. And I bought her hot chocolate, at the bottom of the hill. And that started, a long and probably frustrating for her courtship, where I tried to convince her I was just as mature as she needed me to be.
There we go.
But yeah, we met in Antarctica, and we have a goal. We're actually planning on going to South Africa this January. We want to see every species of penguin together in the wild. We did our honeymoon in the Galapagos. Yep. We did penguins. Probably another harrowing animal encounter. I got face bumped by a blacktip reef shark because I was the last person in a trail of cloudy water and didn't know what was coming at me. Yeah, no, we've seen penguins all over. I honestly, Antarctica is just such a beautiful place. And I know I've listened to you all talk about Antarctica as well.
Oh, I want to go so badly. Oh,
that was where the other animal encounter that haunts Nic was from.
Yeah, let's not get into it. Having such a fun time, Laura.
I know. Oh, this has been such a fun conversation, but we're running out of time. Ryan, is there anything else you want to talk about? Any more animals running into your face or anything?
No, I'll save the other animals running into my face stories for maybe another time in the future. We all get to talk.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we let you go, why don't you let the people know where they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about LinkedIn. So you can go to LinkedIn and look for Ryan Hathaway. I will be the one with a picture with his face with a bright pink pig. So linkedin.com/Ryan Hathaway, or you can email me at r.s.hathaway@gmail.com. There were a lot of R and Ryan Hathaways, so I had to add in the middle initial there.
Well, perfect.
Nice. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That's our show. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. See you, everybody.
Bye.